Naomi Osaka, who won her first title here last year and then won a couple of slams. She is part of this trio of Grand Slam champions who have split with their coaches in the last little while. Osaka parting with Sasha Bayan, Halep stepping away from Darren Cahill, and Sloane Stephens ending her partnership with Kamau Murray. Guys, let's start with the Osaka piece of this. From what Naomi has said, it seemed like things started to deteriorate with Sasha literally as she was in the middle of winning the Australian Open.
Yeah, it was so strange to read the transcript of after the finals when she was asked, what did Sasha tell you before the match? And she said, well, frankly, we just haven't been saying much. You maybe gave me one thing. So there was something going on there. I mean, there was a lot of discussion amongst the pundit class about maybe it was a financial fissure, but she certainly batted that away when she was asked about it in her first tournament back. So just seemed like the relationship fractured at some point. I mean, I just think back to when we were at the U.S. Open last year doing TC Live, and we had the cameras on in the U.S. Open warm-up room, and Sasha was dancing, and we had so much fun with it, and they were having so much fun with it. And it's just sad to see that they've lost that love and feeling.
This was the WTA's inaugural Coach of the Year, and then subsequent to that, you win back-to-back majors. It was a shocking in terms of timing. It was a bit of a shock move, but I also think you said it, it's a personal relationship. This is not all these analogies to sports and Bill Belichick and coaches and other sports. It doesn't quite work. And if the chemistry isn't there, really the player has no obligation to the coach. The player is obligated to best their talent. And if Naomi Osaka thought that there was a better personal relationship, good on her for making that move.
I'm not sure that the results are going to show that right away. I mean, she's on an incredible run. And one of the hardest things that we all forget is that she's 21 years old, and a 21-year-old who's a boss, who's trying to figure out, how do I communicate with my coach? How do I manage this? And then the coach has to figure out what messages to send, when, how, and why. It is a very complex dynamic. So with the younger players, if the coaches don't know how to navigate that communication, it doesn't matter what the message is. Right. And so there was a disconnect, and I think that for Naomi now, she's trying to get herself reestablished. But look, she's a great player. Ultimately, it comes down to the players. Us coaches have to figure out how to kind of press the right buttons, and I'm sure she'll be just fine.
And now she picks up Jermaine Jenkins, another alumnus, as Sasha was, of the Williams tree.
I think that makes a lot of sense. You've experienced success firsthand, but I also think in Megan, I'd heard this from the Osaka camp, when they had made that decision, it was really as much about the personal relationship. And she had liked him before. This is not someone she just met for the first time. We'll see how it goes. But I think the other thing, Paul, you said it too, she's got some results to back up now. And of course, with every defeat, the questions will be, well, why did she make this coaching change? I think you need to go long game here.
All right. As for the Simona Halep angle, I think we've all been really impressed with how Darren Cahill has said all the right things and pushed all the right buttons with her over the last couple of years. They had that separation for a little while because he separated from her, and now this relationship.
Yeah, well, for Darren, this was a family decision. He has some children that he wants to spend some really important time with instead of being on the road. So for him, that was the decision. It wasn't that there was a problem in his relationship with Simona from what he said, and I certainly believe Darren, and he's an honest shooter. You know, the Van Klempen thing, that was just a trial run that clearly didn't go very well.
1 week?
Yep. I mean, but sometimes that's all it takes for you to get a feel for whether the communication is going to work or not, and get a feel for, you know, personalities meshing or not meshing.
I think it's an interesting time to go on a trial run, though, during a tournament. You know, I think you want a little bit of both. But look, Simona doesn't have a coach. It's not like she's coachless, though. There are a lot of people helping her, and I'm sure Darren Cahill is still chatting with her a bit. She knows how to win. She's been around. And I think it's smart for her to take a moment, take a breath, figure out what she needs, hit the key areas and what the dynamic needs to be for her on and off the court with the coaching relationship, because she's a great player and there's no reason she shouldn't stay at the top of the game.
Yeah, part of tennis coaching is X's and O's and preparation, but a lot of it is psychology and comfort level, and sometimes the hitting partners, the trainers, the parents, they can provide that. So I think we've all been hung up on this idea that the last four major champions have all made these coaching changes, but the circumstances have been very, very different, and the support staff they each have is very different.
The split between Sloane and Kamau Murray is another one that kind of caught us off guard, and I appeal to you, Paul, because you've been on the inside with the Sloane Stephens camp, having been her coach. What did you learn about what she needs to be at her best mentally and perform at her best on the court?
Well, I thought she and Kamau did a terrific job as she kind of, I think a lot came from Sloane, but give Kamau credit. He knew how to manage the environment to help her get to a maturity level that brought her the U.S. Open title. And I think ultimately Sloane now has to figure, okay, what do I do here? And she's got a lot going on. She's a great player. She's a phenomenal talent. She's one of these players that if she's by herself and she doesn't play a lot, we're going to see volatility, but in that volatility, we're still going to see a lot of wins because she's great.
Yeah, she has that ability to flip the switch, and all of a sudden she's there, and we learned it last year. This time of the season, she wasn't winning matches. She hadn't won a match since she'd won the U.S. Open the year before, and then all of a sudden she just pops up and says, hey, don't panic, guys. I'm not panicking, and then she finds it. So she knows that it's in there. I still, for the life of me, don't understand these coaching changes. I really, if it's working, why would you change? I don't quite understand it. But the relationships do drive it, and if there is unhappiness, then I get that. But it's a strange time of the year for us to have all this move.
Guys, communication.
I'm hearing a reality show pitch. No, for the record, I did see Sloane Steep made 90 minutes ago with Kamau Murray, so who knows? I mean, she had said a few weeks ago they just needed some time apart. It was just a temporary breakup. They may get back together. But the other thing, too, is that these relationships, they come and go. It's not stable work, but tennis practices recycling. So some of these coaches reappear weeks later, and sometimes they reappear with the same player. Nothing is forever.
And in the meantime, Sloane getting some help from Sly Black and from Fed Cup captain Kathy Rinaldi, who was on court with her yesterday.